Today, I'm going to show you a color palette that I made using Sherwin-Williams Forestwood. Or should I say Forestwood? Because it's one word. Also, Sherwin-Williams is not an easy word to say. I'm James from the Paint People, and this is a channel all about painting, decorating, color, and color theory. And palette pyramids are our way to put colors together in a really easy to understand fashion. Essentially, it works top down. Your main color up top, which is kind of your default choice, the color that you'll use most of all. And then under that are your support colors, which help support your main color in the form of a trim color or maybe another neutral that can go with your main color. And then finally, the bottom row are your finishing colors or your accent colors. And these are those special colors to help spice up certain parts of your home, whether you need to do a fun accent wall or a fun accent dining room. These are going to be your more saturated colors that will give you a little more hue. So we recently did a dedicated review on Forestwood. I told you what I thought of this color in an episode of Hue Review. And of course, you can check it out on the cards up top. I kept saying check it up, but I guess you could check it up or check it down in the description if you want to see that video after this. But the TLDR of it all, this is a beautiful dark green, an 8 LRV, which is an 8% light reflectance value. That's very, very low, which means this color is dark, but you didn't need me to tell you that because you can see it's quite dark. So where would I put it on my palette pyramid? Well, of course, it would go straight to the finishing section. This is not a color I'd recommend most people to use on things like hallways or trim. I mean, maybe in certain cases, but for the most part, this is definitely going to be one of those finishing colors, one of those special colors, those accent choices. I love dark greens like this. I have a dark green powder room right now. I have a dark green accent wall in this studio over here. It is a color I'm very, very fond of because it's drama, moody, but still organic and tied to nature. It has this lovely complexity to it that I think is really awesome. So if you are trying to spice things up in a room, going with a dark green is one of my favorite choices to make, especially if you have a lot of plant life, like some leafy greens, not like lettuce or cabbage hanging around, but actual trees and plant life. Doubling down on that green really pays off nicely. Why don't we continue with the rest of the finishing colors? My second choice would be Evening Shadow. Now this is going to be a very passive finishing color. You don't necessarily need to go with crazy, bold, bright, or dark choices. These are just going to be different enough to separate themselves from your main color, from your neutrals, essentially. Evening Shadow is one of those cool leaning grays. Technically, it is one of the neutral colors from Sherwin-Williams, but it's not your typical neutral. It's not a gray beige. It is a blue gray, a Blu-ray. Trademark, you saw it first on the Paint People, Blu-ray. Not Blu-ray, Blu-ray. It's late, can you tell? I don't even have a watch on, and checking my wrist. Comparatively speaking, this color has a 60 LRV, so way brighter than Forestwood, and that means it's going to reflect more light, it's going to feel more airy in your space, and for a lot of people, it's going to be the easier color to utilize, or at least easier to digest, because it is lighter. But just keep in mind that the blue aspect will be pretty prevalent. It is a silvery blue, I would say, but it is kind of chill, relaxed. It'll just give you a very different look than what the main color presents you, which I will present to you in a second. Well, we got to go to our third finishing color, which is to me the most different of the bunch, and I really think it helps complement Forestwood. So this is a color you could use in the same space as that dark green. Just be aware that they have a very polarizing, charged relationship, being on opposite ends of the color wheel pretty much. It is called Coina, and this is going to be a color that's named after a rock made up of tons of tiny little rocks. And what it translates to is sort of this wildberry mauve. It's kind of a combination of a deep dark gray with some burgundy and some purple. There is a pretty noticeable red undertone happening here, which is why I kind of think of it as wildberry, like blackberries mixed with raspberries. You kind of have that sort of coloration to it. And it is mellowed out a little bit with some gray and brown. So kind of this taupe overtone, I would say. And then you have that purple red undertone. It makes it feel a little more interesting and eye attention grabbing. Whether you pair it with the more neutral colors in this palette or even some of the other finishing colors to really give you that yin-yang effect. 28 LRV, so another darker color for sure. So I wouldn't use this heavy-handedly. And because it is based on taupe, it has that grayed out feeling to it. It's probably not going to be my first choice for places where you want something a little more energetic and fun and invigorating. It's a little more grounded feeling. It does have an earthiness to it. So even though the purple's there, I wouldn't call it the star of the show here. All right, so let's climb that pyramid to our support colors. These are going to be your second most used colors typically, either in the form of a trim color or another fairly neutral color to help coordinate with that main color that sort of ties it all together. The first one we'll talk about is pure white. So this is the off-white choice in the palette. This is going to be a pretty solid trim color option, I would say, for most people, because it's very clean, versatile, but bright. Not intense, not super vibrant, but it does have that clean quality that you're probably looking for in a white paint. I really like pure white. I think it's just one of the easier to recommend paint colors in the entire Sherwin-Williams catalog because it is so flexible. Now, in terms of the second support color, this is going to be another option for your walls. And it's neutral, but it does have a little bit to it. You could argue that this could have replaced Evening Shadow as one of the finishing colors, but I like it as something that you would use a little more than that one. Maybe a couple rooms, not just the one. It's called Stamped Concrete. And even though it sounds like just a plain old gray, super basic, super boring, it does have a really clear cyan undertone. Really beautiful color, very sleek, 35 LRV, so quite a bit of depth there, but I think you can really get away with it because it does have this relaxed feeling to it that I think is awesome in bedrooms and bathrooms specifically, but you can use it in other rooms as well. I would just recommend having some light, some windows perhaps, some natural light to really bring the color to life, because if you have it in, let's say, a basement that has little to no window light and maybe poor artificial lighting, really lose a lot of this color's magic in the undertones. It just will feel like concrete, which is maybe not the look you're going for. And before we finish up with the main color up top, I do want to mention that we offer custom color palettes to people that are looking for a specific one that's tailor-made to you by myself and my team. Mainly me, let's be honest. And essentially what you get are 3 different options at 3 different price points, depending on your project size. So if you're doing one room and you need a couple colors, if you're doing a whole floor and you need maybe 6 colors, kind of like these videos, or you're doing a whole house and you need more than that, you need 11 colors, we can do whichever option suits you best. Typically the 11 color palette is interior only, but then your 3 and 6 options, we can do exterior palettes as well. So just let me know what you're doing. You can check the description down below for more information. I can send you a video that can give you a little more details on the process, and then we can go from there. Okay, so let's finish this palette pyramid. What is the main color that sort of finishes everything off? Modern white is going to be the pinnacle of this palette pyramid. This is your main color, and if you're new to the channel, I invite you to subscribe. The main color is really the most important one because this is the color that you should be able to envision going everywhere in your home. As a starting point, I always think, hey, modern white all over my walls. And then once that's sort of done out of the way, then you can start to explore, okay, well, maybe in the living room, I want something a bit darker, but still neutral. Okay, great. There's my support color, Stamped Concrete. Let's slot that in. Looks awesome. And then, hey, maybe in the kitchen, I want the cabinets to be a fun color, so I can look at the finishing colors and pick one that I can use for that purpose. So modern white, definitely a great main color. Think hallways, main living areas, even just living room, family room, office. It can be just a great default choice. And I think it's awesome because it has a lovely brightness to it, but it still has some gray and some green that can really tie perfectly with forest wood specifically, which is the color we started with. And that's it. That's the palette pyramid. What do you guys think of this one? Let me know down below. If you haven't seen our forest wood review, it took me a while to say that, you have it right over here. And then we have more palette pyramids right below it.